I'm so thrilled to have singer-songwriter Jonathan Mann.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. So most of this talk is about Song a Day and all that that entails. But I'm actually going to start with my grandma. That's my grandma. She and I were really close, and she was a really big part of my life. And she passed away about 1.5 years ago. And here's this painting of her that hangs in my living room that I love, next to Totoro. Sort of equal, you know, that they're similar in a lot of ways, actually, as maybe you'll see. And so the thing about my grandma is that everyone else in my family, while being very supportive of what I do, they all are behind me 100%. My grandma's the only other weirdo in my family. Everyone else is normal, has normal jobs, but my grandmother was like a certified weirdo, and we had that in common. And so there was this point where I'm like looking at myself, I'm like, where did I come from? How did I get here? And I looked at my grandma, I'm like, you! And we had that together, and over the years, you know, that sort of bonded us together, the weirdo-ness. So I just want to tell you a little bit about her life to maybe provide some wide context for where I come from. She got her master's degree in psychology at NYU in 1946, and for the next 20 years was a New York psychoanalyst, living in New Jersey, working in New York as a psychoanalyst. And this all sort of came crashing down when, in 1965, my grandfather died, but you know, I never got to know. And this exploded my grandmother's life in a big way, and led her on this path, this weirdo path that she ended up taking the rest of her life. In 1966, she moved to a place called Big Sur, California, to a thing called the Esalen Institute. Okay, so the birthplace of humanistic therapy and Gestalt therapy, Alan Watts, and all these people, a hotbed of hippie activity and a, you know, hippie mecca of sorts. And my grandmother at this point is in her mid-40s, much too old to be a hippie, but that didn't stop her. That's my booby. In a hot tub with lots of other naked people. And that was who she was. The rest of her life, my parents were hippies, but they sort of they embraced capitalism eventually, as many of them, you know, in the 80s, whatever. But she never did. She did a lot of traveling. When she was in her 50s and 60s, over the next decades, she traveled around the world a lot, much of it alone. She lived in Denmark and China, and she would be, so I'm only sharing these because she would want me to, and she would be very confused why I'm censoring. She'd be like, why did you feel the need to do that? I'd be like, well, Bubby, there's children here, so I just thought it would be for the best. But so this was who she was, and the main thing, like one of the most defining characteristics about her was that she loved to dance. She used dance in her therapy. She would just dance sort of all the time under any circumstance. And I have this really vivid memory of being very little, maybe 5 or 6 years old. I grew up in Vermont, and we were at this place called Shelburne Farms. It was a sort of hoity-toity classical music in the park. Everybody's got their blankets and their strawberries. They're eating them and dressed up very nice, sitting, listening to the classical music. Ah, yes, very nice afternoon. My whole family's there. My grandmother's there. My grandma gets up, and some classical song is playing, and she just starts dancing, like she's at a Dead concert or something. She's like, just dancing through the blankets, and that's like the best maybe description that I can give for what she was like. And my whole family, of course, was just mortified. Please stop dancing. Please. But I loved it. As a little kid, I loved it. And as I got older, she was a weirdo. And I loved that about her. So that's my grandma. We'll come back to her at the end of the talk. For now, we're going to go to Song a Day. And Song a Day started with this thing called Fun a Day. So maybe some of you have heard of it. It's make one piece of art for every day in the month of January. So I got this flyer on January 1st, 2009. Said, okay. So I said, I'll make a song, I'll make a video, I'll post it to YouTube. Did that for 31 days. Was having a really good time, thought it was going well. I was unemployed at the time, so it was a good thing to do. And 100 days went by, a year went by, 1,000 days went by, and at a certain point, it just becomes part of my life. And so that's how I stand before you now, having written 2,082 songs in as many days. Oh. Thank you. So all that Song a Day is really is just, there's this idea that I didn't really know, it's a problem that I didn't really know that I had until I started doing Song a Day, and then I was able to put a name to it, which is like, I'm happiest when I'm making. And like so much of my life leading up to Song a Day, my creative life was spent trying to like trick myself into making as much stuff as I felt like I should be making, or more just like that I wanted to be making. On days when I made something, I felt good, and on days when I didn't, I felt bad. And so all Song a Day is no matter what else is happening in my life, if I'm too tired or too busy or too sick or a lot of the time just not feeling inspired at all, it doesn't matter. I'm still just going to make a song. And a lot of them are going to be okay. I have this theory like 70-20-10. 70% of everything you make is going to be mediocre. 20% is going to be shit, throw it out. And 10% is going to be really, really good. And so all that means is the more stuff you make, the more good stuff that you're going to make. And there'll be days, a lot of days, my favorite songs come out of moments when I have nothing. Like I'm just like, I'm dead on my feet. I have nothing to give. And somehow I sit down and force myself. And I'm like, that's a really great song. I don't know where that came from. So, Song a Day. These are my views on YouTube over the course of Song a Day. My average day, over most of these days, I get between like 300 and 1,000 views every day, which is not, in the scheme of YouTube, this is not very many views. There are days when they go, when they get a lot bigger. So let's visit some of my more viral things. Okay, so the first one that really went viral was song number 77. I don't know if I can remember all the numbers, but I know that this one was 77. I wrote this song about Nobel Prize winning economist Paul Krugman, and it was on like the front page of Huffington Post, and it blew up and it went everywhere, and it culminated in this live performance on the Rachel Maddow show where I brought these bubbles for her and she blew bubbles at me, and it was like, she was totally game. She was like, absolutely, I'll blow bubbles at you. The next video that went super viral, you could watch that in a loop for a while, right? The next video that went really viral was, for a while, in the first 2 years of Song a Day, I was making my living entering video contests. I would just enter a ton of video contests, and some of them I would win, and that's how I would make my money. So I entered a Microsoft-sponsored jingle competition for the newly launched search engine Bing. They called it the Bingle contest, Bing Jingle. And I wore my pajamas in the video to show my enthusiasm for Microsoft. And this is how the song went. Bing, bing, bing goes the internet. That's... and lo and behold, I won a $500 American Express gift card from Microsoft. The next day, or like a week after maybe, someone sent me an email and said, hey, did you see what MG Siegler posted about you on TechCrunch? So I'm like, that's kind of mean. It's nice that I did the worst of something. That's an honor. So I ended up writing a song about him. Which apparently Michael Arrington used as his ringtone for 3 months. And then MG Siegler and I became actually internet friends after this. I would write songs about tech, and he would post them to TechCrunch, and that's how in like maybe song number 561, I think it was, right before Apple had the AntennaGate issue, you hold your phone a certain way and the antenna. So right before the AntennaGate press conference, where Steve Jobs was going to say, "Fuck you, media, you're making a big deal out of nothing," I posted this song the night before. If you don't want an iPhone 4, don't buy it. If you bought one and you don't like, bring it back. If you don't want an iPhone 4, don't buy it. And so that is how the next day I got a phone call. I don't know how they got my number, but they're Apple, so they can do what they want. That said, can we use your song to open the press conference? Long pause on the phone. Yes. And so that is how Steve Jobs ended up walking out on stage and saying,
"Good morning. Thanks for joining us here. We saw that on YouTube this morning and couldn't help but want to share it."
Sometimes I just put that on in a loop so I can just listen to it over and over again. Probably one of my proudest moments, although this also might be one, which is a little while later, I talked to the same PR guy who asked me what I wanted in return, and the iPad had just come out, and I couldn't afford one. So I said, "An iPad?" And so they sent me an iPad. But, I don't know if you can see it because it's so dark, but he told me that Steve Jobs had been off stage dancing to my song while it was playing, and if you watch the video, I don't know if you can see it, but if you watch the video, you can clearly see like maybe 10 frames of him like dancing. So making Steve Jobs, check that off the list. Make Steve Jobs dance. A little while after that, sometime in the early 1000s, my ex and I, who had been together for 5 years, decided to post a song announcing to our friends that we needed to break up. We wrote the song together, made the video together, and we posted it. And that went crazy viral, and everybody related to it or something. And of course, this song was immediately followed up by I moved into a new apartment and I needed a roommate. I was having a horrible time on Craigslist finding one, so I posted this video. Come live with me. I need a roommate. I need to live with me. This place is awesome. And then more recently, this was just a couple months ago, when the Hobby Lobby decision came down and Ruth Bader Ginsburg wrote her amazing Hobby Lobby dissent, which many of you, I'm sure, read. I set her dissent to music and sang it. Oh, the court I fear has ventured into a minefield full of slut-shaming geezers and religious extremism. She didn't say the part about slut-shaming geezers, but she implied it. So some days this is what it feels like to write a song every day. But as you saw on that chart, it happens with frequency, but it's also kind of rare, Most days, what song a day feels like, if you'll forgive my I'm out on the sea of song a day, and I'm out there just alone. And like Andy was saying yesterday, it can get lonely. I'm doing this most days just by myself, and I'm catching songs, and it's a good one, and then I catch and throw it out, and it makes a ripple or a little wave over there, and then I catch another one. It's a bad song. I throw it out, and I'm sharing my whole creative process, and it can be. It's like my grandma naked earlier. It's like that's the part of me I think that that is naked most of the time. Is like here's my whole deal. Like here's just all of my songs that I have to offer you, and it can often feel sort of isolating and lonely out on the sea of song a day. Other days it feels like there's the maw, the great giant maw of the internet, and the all-seeing eye wreathed in flame, and I'm just there shoveling songs, frantically shoveling songs into his gaping maw, just like content, content creator gotta make the more songs and feed me, and it can feel so pointless and tiring, and just like the songs go out and then I never hear from them again, and it's just like it's like a treadmill or whatever, and so that can feel sort of pointless sometimes on the internet, especially. And there's the exact opposite of that also happens on the internet that we've heard a little bit about today already in Ethan's talk, which is some days I post the song, and it's just like a whatever song to me. It's just another day. But like immediately I'll get a comment like one of these, like thanks so much. That's exactly what I needed to hear at this exact moment. And that's like just remarkable to me that like I can write a song from my, home in Brooklyn, and somewhere at the exact moment that I posted it, someone is feeling something for which that song describes how they're feeling. And that's, the power of the internet. That's the most gratifying. Even better than Steve Jobs dancing is this. And then I don't know if you can see this one. It's a little dark, but can you turn this one up too? It's quiet as well. Day 355, I got food poisoning, really bad, and I hadn't done my song yet. It was 3 a.m. in the morning. I didn't know how I was going to do it, so I got in the bath, which is the only way that I could be without puking, and I set up the camera, and this is what I made.
I've been puking up my guts. Now I'm lying in the bath. I'm feeling really, really sick. Good night.
So that was a day. A lot of days, especially lately, to go along with the theme of like, what am I doing? I've contemplated stopping song a day, especially leading up to my 2000th song, which was like, a big milestone. The birth of my son and my 2000th song both happened within a month of each other, and it was like, okay, my son is being born, and my 2000 song is coming up. This seems like a really natural stopping point. Nice even number. But then my 2000 song came and went, and the birth of my son came and went, and there he is. And, on the day my son was born, I wrote another song. And in a lot of ways, that's just like what song a day is. It's like days that I'm puking my guts out, I'm going to write a song. And on days that my son is born, I'm going to write a song. And on days that my grandma, I don't know if you can see that, that's my grandma winking into the camera. On the day that my grandma died, I wrote a song. And as she got older, she really did her best to embrace death. She bought her casket. She spent the last 10 years of her life on Maui, and she bought her casket about 10 years before she died. She had a friend make it for her, and it sat in her lawn, right where she could see it, the whole time. And I'm not making any of this up. She would lay in it to test it out. She would invite us, her family, to lay in it. How does it feel to you? Does it feel good? She wrote a lot of poems about death. She did a lot of paintings. And so when I got the call from my parents that she was passing away, I went to see her, and she was already like basically unconscious. She was on morphine. She was in a lot of pain, and I hadn't done my song yet this day, and I knew that she, for all of Song a Day, I'd been writing songs for her birthday every year, and she loved it. Like that was like something that she really treasured, and so, you know, I just on this final day, I decided to write her one last song, and you know, I was feeling kind of numb, to be honest, in that kind of way that maybe you get when you're dealing with this, and I was frantic. I wanted to get her out of the hospice place, and I wanted to get her home where she wanted to be. I wasn't really thinking about, you know, being inspired necessarily, but I had to do my song, and I knew she would want to be in it, even if she was unconscious and on morphine, because that's just how she was, you know? And so, this song is gonna be a little sad, but it's also not for me. In one way it is, but in another way, I know that she heard it, and I know that she really loved it. So I'm just gonna end with the song that I wrote for my grandma, right as she was going. Death, death, death is dancing around here. He's got a big top hat and a great big furry beard, and you're not afraid of him because you are the same weird. Oh, death, death, death is dancing around here. And life, life, life is dancing around here. She's dancing like you used to, with no callousness or fear. And the path is like the dancing, it's spontaneous and clear. Oh, life, life, life is dancing around here. You will not always be remembered, but you will never be replaced. These are lines from a poem that you wrote. I sit here studying your features, all the lines upon your face, hearing the labored breathing in your throat. And how I wish my wife could meet you, and I want my son to know you. And Morty will surely greet you and throw his arms around you. And you will watch me grow from wherever you go. A go, go, go 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 from wherever you go. Go, 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 go. Thank you. Thanks.